All right, so good evening, everyone. Jose J. Garcia, real estate investor, coach, and mentor. So good evening, Instagram as well, live as usual. It is after 8, so we're going to jump right into our Sunday coaching series. Now, as I was saying on Instagram, we got a few announcements towards the end. We got some changes, so you definitely want to be paying attention to that. But if you join these calls after we get started or you want to watch the replay, it does go on our YouTube and all of our social media, of course, because we are located on, the major of social media sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, of course, that's coming live, and that's part of the announcement towards the end. But let's go ahead and jump on in. So we only get 30 minutes of this every Sunday, so it's a little bit short of a coaching. And the topic for tonight is we're going to squeeze it in. So, but all right. So rental setup in a mobile homes, and that is the perfect. I'm going to say now, the perfect exit strategy for this time of year, rentals. That's what you should be focusing on. That's what you should be doing. Should be trying to do anyway. And it doesn't have to be for long term unless you want to be a landlord. You know, pros and cons. Think of that with everything you do. Everything has a pro, everything has a con. So when you think about a rental, a lot of people immediately say, well, I don't want to deal with the landlord, being landlord. I don't want to deal with the tenants, and they're calling me every 5 minutes. And, if they're calling you every 5 minutes, then it's probably something you want to be paying attention to anyway. Something is obviously wrong, or you could have some very needy tenants. I've had those. I've had some that call me for every little thing. I mean, when I say that, I mean, it didn't have to do with the house anymore, with the mobile home. Hey, the neighbor's doing this, or, that's a relationship that you do have to build with them as well. Also, and it's from a business standpoint, but hey, if there's something going on wrong with the mobile home, that I need to get involved in, definitely call me. If it's something a neighbor's doing, that's something I can do about. So, one of those kind of things. But so, setting up the rental. So I do month to month for the most part. We have, let's see, Dublin, East Georgia is great for rentals overall. It does have the longest passive income, so don't forget about that. When you do wholesale, when you flip them, when you do rent to owns, when you do lease options, all those are good. They're all great passive incomes, and you have to have as many exit strategies as possible because you want to create as many passive income streams coming in at all times. Don't lock yourself with this idea of I am only a wholesaler. I only do flips. And if you do, I hope that works out. I do have some investor friends that's all they do, and it works out for them. Great. But I've always felt that any exit strategy that you do not do, you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving that opportunity because you're not involving yourself with it. I know that there'll be deals, opportunities that come by. And if you're only thinking in that short mind of I only wholesale, you're passing up on something that could be great. So, don't ever limit yourself. But pros and cons. When it comes to rentals, you are going to be a landlord. That's all there is to it. You're going to be a landlord and you will get caught. Now, how you set up, that's up to you. If you think you can handle the phone calls coming in, if you think you can handle the maintenance, and that's how I started. 7 years ago, I was the landlord, I was the maintenance, I was a handyman, I was the every hat, which means that when they called me and said, hey, Jay, something is leaking, yes, I would stop what I was doing to go out there and tend to that leak. Sometimes it was something minimal, something that was something that should have been addressed many, many days or weeks ago. But all in all, is that it was causing me to stop to go out and handle it. Those calls get old real quick. Okay. It seems like they come at the worst time. You're having dinner, you're spending family time, you're out and about. There's a phone call. And they're not calling to say hello. That was always the thing. So, somebody's calling you, something is wrong. But for those reasons, many people say, well, I don't want to be a landlord because I don't want to deal with those phone calls. Again, how you set it up. Well, we currently have rentals, long-term rentals, not month to month is, we have a structured team out there. Typically, when we hear a phone call, it is from our maintenance guy. Hey, Jay, I had a phone call from lot 2. They said something's leaking. I'm going to go check it out real quick, and I'll let you know before we get started on the above. That's who I'd rather listen to. And again, because I have that system already in place, my tenants know to call him. I'm not going to be able to do much anyway. I could be on this phone call here with y'all. I could be coaching somebody else. I could be doing podcasts. I could be traveling. So I'm not a whole lot of help when somebody's trying to reach me anyway. So have that system in place. But if you're getting started, if you're new, don't let that overwhelm you. Immediately thinking, I got to go get a team and I got to hire management. I got to do all the above. Handle as much as you can on your own before you start hiring. Okay. And not just because you may not have the funds, for instance, or you may not have that, you may not be up to that level where you can start hiring other people outside help. But I think that it also helps you because it'll teach you a lot of things in between. You cannot hold anybody accountable if you do not know how something works. So if you're immediately trying to get a management team company, if you're trying to get handyman contractors and anything that breaks, you immediately go to them, but you don't really question or know what's going on. That's going to be an issue with itself. How do you know they're not charging you for something they shouldn't, or something really isn't broken? And all the contractor handyman, and I know I'm on those right now, those topics. We have another topic coming on that. Stay for the end. Um, you know, they will they will try you. Let me use that. They will try you and see how much they can get away with in a sense. And as soon as you approve something that you shouldn't have, they will try it again and again. And we're on to a side now of they know they can get away with this. So it's, again, pros and cons to all of the above. But let me get to the coaching. All right. So why should you do rentals and the rental setup? This time of year, you cannot expect the people to have thousands and thousands in their pocket. That's not going to happen. Timing, timing, timing. That's what mobile homes are. Okay. Real estate's all about location. Mobile homes are all about timing. If you are getting into this and immediately thinking flips, you're probably going to be disappointed. Now, don't let me discourage you. There are opportunities where people will still do so. But you got to remember that we are investing in affordability housing. Mobile homes will be that. I was talking to another investor and he got the talking about tiny house and all these storage units and all, those, I don't know how long tiny houses will be around, or these storage units and all these things are doing. And even so, I think that those fall more into the fancy category in a sense. For the longest time, people want bigger houses, more square footage, more storage, more places they can put stuff in, et cetera, et cetera. Then it's like a complete reverse. Now they want smaller, smaller, smaller. But I personally don't see those lasting forever. I mean, you think about leaving a 4,000 square foot house to get into a 400 square tiny house. I think it's a cute short term, if you will. But the fact that even those 400 square foot houses, or 500 or 600, which are very small, by the way, they're not affordability housing. Some of these tiny houses that I've seen, they cost 2-3 times more than a mobile home. And a mobile home has every bit of 11 to 12, 1,500 square footage. So it's a lot bigger in a sense. Okay. But again, I can't speak for that in the future in a sense, but affordability, that's what mobile homes are. That's what they will always be. So keep that in mind. It does not matter where you're at. Yes, you can have areas like California. I'll be there next week. This week coming up. And it's, mobile homes go there for $1 million, $2 million. Malibu, California, 1.5 mil for a mobile home every day. That's what you typically see. People say, well, that's not affordability housing anymore. People can't afford that. Maybe most investors getting into will not, and I would suggest that that's where you should invest. As a matter of fact, investors who come in from the real estate side in California, I typically get them to invest in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Georgia, where we're located, right? But if you compare the affordability housing in California in those same areas, that 1.5 mil for a single wide mobile home, what is a stick bill going for in that area? You see what I mean? So it's always the difference within what's there. You cannot compare something in those markets to the markets you're in, because obviously they're going to be a lot higher. Okay. But affordability housing. So that's what we got. So when you think about, I can get a mobile home for X amount, rehab it, get it on the market. It's time to sell it. And I want 25,000 cash right now. Most people are not going to have 25,000 today. That's not going to happen. So while we convert them into rentals is, I want to prep them into the new year. Okay, you're pushing everything to the new year. I'm going to do a month to month. That's what I'm going to set them up. What is a month to month? It's a short rental. It means that I don't have to, because you got to remember, if I need to renew an agreement, and it can be both sides, from the tenant or from the landlord. If you're going to renew or not going to renew, you have to give at least a 30-day notice. Now, that depends on the city, county, state. Some require 60 days. So you definitely want to be up to par on that and know what the rules are. But if all it takes is 30 days for me to tell them, hey, I'm not going to renew, or I'm going to change to something else, whatever it may be, that gives me just enough time for me to change it up as any time as I need to, or I want to, if you will. So we always make rentals this time of year, and we have a lot that we're having. We are rehabbing many, many mobile homes at this time. They're going to go into a month-to-month rentals. So they come January, February. We will convert them from that into a lease option. That's option number one. Or we will give the tenants, 30 days to evict themselves, to vacate the home. We'll come in, touch it up again, and then we'll put it on the market for a cash sale. February, March, April, May. That's the months when you can expect people to have cash because of income tax time. So that's where the setup comes in. And we do this every year. A lot of people shy away from the idea of, I'll just wait until the new year. You do whatever you like. But, when you're asked when is the best time to invest, as I would say, this is the best time, because you're setting yourself up from when people are going to have money. That's the way that works. All right. So let's get started on the rental setup and why. Now, you cannot rush. This is where I start seeing investors rushing, and they rush for one reason. Okay. Every penny out of pocket means every penny you have to make back before you can start making ROIs. return on your investments. So the more money I have out of pocket, the more you're trying to get immediately or cut your losses or stop spending, or I see people fluctuate back and forth. And one of those expenses, it's the lot rent. Well, I have another month worth of lot rent that I have to pay. Okay. Lot rent is every mobile home inside of a community has to pay lot rent on the first of the month. Okay. That could vary from 3, 5, 600. We have the home down in Venice, which they're actually going to pay out the following year, and it's well over $1,000 a month. So again, these are expenses that you have to allocate. But you see, when you're setting up these rehabs and you're getting into these investments, all these numbers should have been put together in a budget anyway. So it should not be a surprise that, hey, if I hold on to an additional month, that's an additional 300, 400, 500, whatever it may be. You should have known that. You should have made it part of the budget. And part of the budget means that you also have to think in mind is what's the best case scenario, worst case scenario, and most likely. If you are only thinking the best case scenario, there you go again, maybe being disappointed. Something goes wrong, something doesn't work out. Guess what you're doing? Spending more money, investing more money into it. But you cannot rush that process towards the end, because here comes another month I have to pay. I would rather pay another month or two and do it like I should be, slow down where I need to be. And that, we're going to get into screening residents here in a few minutes, but and make sure that I get the right buyer, the right tenant inside my home to just, anybody can get it at this time. As long as I don't have to pay, they can give me anything as a deposit. It checks out. Most times than not, it does not. Once you get a resident inside that home, okay, it's a lot easier to get them in than it is to get them out. Once they get in and they settle down and they start paying, or they start breaking the rules, regulations of the park, etc., it may take you months to get them out. Okay. We've had one specific resident I can think of where it took us almost 7 months to get them out. And of course, they weren't paying. And guess who was still paying for the lot rent once they were in there? We were. So, things like that happen. Those are lessons learned, something we'd have to look into. But let's jump on to, okay. So let's say you got your mobile home, you've rehab it, it's ready, it's going on the market. Obviously, the first key, even this time of year, yes, put it up for cash. Put it up, put a number on there. And I would even put suggestions, maybe I will offer financing, because you're going to do that at the new year anyway. That's what lease options are. That's what rent to own is. That's what creating a note is. All it means is that you're willing to finance to whoever buys it. Your quotations, in a sense, a bank. Now, let me go ahead and say this on here, okay? Now, I'm not your legal attorney. I cannot give you legal advice. All information on here is for educational purpose. But I will say this. The second you start talking about interest, you're pretending to be Wells Fargo, BB&T, Bank of America. Yes, you're talking about you're a bank. Also, you should have a license to be able to do the above, because you are quotations against lending. Now, you're lending in a sense. So one of the ways that you can do is create different forms to create financing without actually putting in interest. Now, you can't do anything for 0%. There's just no interest period. It could be a flat loan. It could be a note created. I will leave a lot of this here because we are trickling pretty quick on time for another coaching as to how you should set up your agreements, your lease options, your rent to owns. But I would suggest that if any of you are out there now getting to that spot of doing, reach out to your real estate attorneys. They can set up an agreement, and I assure you that is a very good, wise investment to have. It's a form that you can also use for continuing agreements. So it's not like a one-time, they write you an agreement, you're out $300-400, and it's like, wow, that costs me X amount of money. It's a good investment, okay? But we get out there. So screening, I want to screen very thoroughly. One of the questions I had a couple weeks back on this coaching was, what is the highest technology to screening our residents? I just got to doing a few here in a few minutes ago. It's Anderson, South Carolina. Rentprep.com is what I use. I don't know what the best system is out there or what people prefer to use. I use the same system that I've used for a while, and it's because it works. The biggest thing I'm checking for is criminal history. Okay. Criminal history. I know you're not allowed to share this, by the way, only with the individual that you're doing the screening with. But I check on the screen on the criminal history. I want to know that because of two reasons. One, obviously, I want to know who I'm doing business with. But don't forget that every community has their own rules and their own regulations. I can't think of one community park that would allow sex offenders to live in there or multiple felonies. Now, if they are charges from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and when I say charges, I do mean misdemeanors, felonies. Those are a little more hardcore, if you will. But, then the park may not be so against. Typically it's if they're at least 5 years old and there's no additional charges beside that, there's nothing to be warning about, it's okay to go on that. Then that's fine. Sex offenders, that's typically an immediate denial. Okay. So if you get that on there, do a history check and that comes up, you know, you're not going to be able to do business with them. Now, you cannot go around your community. I would say before you even start screening people, you should already have the rule regulations so that you know on there as to what is their expectations, what do they allow. I don't care so much about the whole credit score. You know, I say we work with low, poor, no credit. That's fine. But a lot of times the communities may say, well, as part of our rule regulations, they do have to have at least X amount of number. There's ways to go around that. And a lot of that just could be the relationship you have between you and the park owner or the park manager. You know, a lot of times I tell them, well, you know, if I'm financing to this individual and they're putting a down payment, I collect the lump sum in one and I pay lot rent, meaning that as long as they're living in this mobile home here that I'm leasing to or I have financing with, I will pay the lot rent directly. Then it should not matter as much. Sometimes they'll okay that because they say, well, fine, we'll hold you as a landlord accountable. If they don't pay, if you don't pay this or that, it's eviction for both of you, that sort of thing. We may be able to work out with that. That's one way on there. But, you know, I don't push as much with these, especially the relationships I already have with the park owners and park managers. You know, if they tell you we're not approving this individual, in my mind, I'm thinking there's probably a good reason as to why they're seeing the above. Now, I am able to do a lot of the backgrounds myself directly and just basically share the results with the park manager or park owners. But a lot of times they don't care for the above. They say they have their own systems and they just kind of want to focus on that and they'll let me know. So again, it's just following the rule regulations on the above and making sure what checks out. But I don't take easy when it comes to the credit score if I see a whole lot of list of collections. Okay, so I don't care if there's no credit. We had a younger couple who came to us a few months back and they said, hey, we're trying to build a house. We're trying to get our credit up. We have none, that sort of thing. And we're seeing if you are able to finance us anyway with no credit. They had nothing negative on their credit, but they had absolutely none. I mean, the numbers were lower than I've ever seen, but it was, I mean, never a credit card, never debit card, nothing. Apparently everything was paid cash and they were younger. So we obviously approved them because there was nothing there. Some people may have a little bit higher, but when I see 10, 15 collections on there, guess who number 16 is going to be? You know, things kind of tend to happen in that sense. And when you're seeing repetitive, you know, it will happen sooner or later. That's the unfortunate side. But again, you know, screening them is very, very important because obviously you want to know who you're allowing into your mobile home. Okay. Let me see one second. Bear with me. If anybody has any questions, by the way, you can drop them on your comments. I will check chats on Instagram here in a few minutes. Let me see. All right, let me keep going here for a second. We're down to 8:20. So easy entry, no credit, poor credit. Okay, you know, that's probably one of my go-tos when I'm posting for one of these mobile homes. Now, when I'm posting for a month-to-month, knowing in my mind that I want to set them up for a lease option on the new year to come, I'll let that be known. You know, I'll let them know that, hey, you know, I'm going to go ahead and rent this out month to month, but, you know, come the new year, we may convert this into a lease option. We may convert this into an immediate sale. Is this something that you would be interested in? A lot of people will say, well, I'm never going to own anything. I don't want to own anything. I just want to rent. Then again, you know, you got to think of those in exit strategy terms. Now, if you're okay with maybe continuing on a rental from now on, you know, then that's okay. But I want people from the get-go to have that idea of, will I be able to own this later on? And I tell them that, you know, why rent when you can own? You can keep on renting for me for years to come, but the same amount that you're paying plus a little bit some, maybe you could own this in a few years, kind of eliminate yourself from that and actually be a homeowner. Don't forget that you can report to all 3 credit bureaus when they make payments on time. So that's something that you can also advertise. How would you like to be able to credit through us? You know, maybe come in and rent for a few months and later on be approved for a higher loan for a house, for a stick bill, for whatever you need, right? So a lot of ways that you can do the above. All right, let me see. Follow, I'm getting distracted here. And I got a lot of announcements because that's what I'm talking about. We're eliminating Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Zoom is going to be eliminated. Zoom is distracting. Zoom works, then it does not, then it does again, and then it doesn't let people in. How about that? So, and we have the paid Zoom. So, but screening technology, let me see a couple other questions that came in. Follow. Yeah, so definitely follow the rule regulations by the park. And, you know, even before you invest in any community park, that's something that you really should already be reaching out to park owners or park managers is, what are your rule and regulations? Can you send me an email with the above? because you got to remember some of these parks, especially, they're getting real stricter lately, and it's fine, for each his own. But if it's a community that does not allow any pets, no dogs of any breed or these specifics, a lot of the residents that we do month-to-month rentals or sell directly may have a dog per se or a couple of dogs. And yes, you would think that, they'd rather get a house and get rid of their pets. I'm not going to opinion on either side, but I'll tell you this. We have lost opportunities on selling and renting to potential residents because the policy was no pets allowed. They weren't willing to get rid of the pets. I wasn't going to ask them to do so anyway, but it did mean that we had to pass up on that and go to another one. So in the rule regulations is huge because you yourself as an investor have to abide by them as well. Okay, screening. All right, let me see. So, what did you say about first-time investors in mobile homes? Let me lower this. I don't know. I've said quite a bit about first-time investors. Maybe the part where, good evening. Maybe the part where you should don't hire a management team and don't immediately just when you're a first-time investor, you want to be involved as much as you can. That's from the management point. And yes, I know that a lot of you have jobs, you have other things to be focusing on. But again, you cannot hold anybody accountable if you don't know how to do the job yourself. So I want to be very involved at first so that I can learn the most. And then when I do decide to hand over the duties to somebody else, should something go wrong, I know how to address the above. Okay. Let me get into announcements. It's 8:25. So again, time went fast on this one here. We have many, many events coming up, many live, many virtual, and it's just we're gonna up it to maybe 2 to 3 events a month. We were doing that a few months back, probably a couple years ago. We're gonna step it into that as well. We got the level ups that are gonna continue to go on. We got the meetups that are gonna continue to go on. We got the shadow in the new year, and we got another event coming in February. But here is what's coming up next. So let's see. 2 weeks from now. So 2 weeks from now, November 30th, we have the virtual title solutions. If you're already a GMHU student, you already do the back pocket, you are granted that event anyway. If you are a partner, JV partner, you are granted that. I'm pushing for everybody to join the virtual because of how many deals I see investors pass upon. They don't have a title I'm not interested in. That's fine to a certain extent because obviously if they don't have a title, the seller, for instance, does not have a title, then you want to be wary as to where it's at. Why don't they have one? Is it under a lien maybe? A lot of these buy here, pay here car dealerships, they also loan against mobile home titles. But the way they do it a lot of times is you have to bring them the title and they'll keep it. They'll loan you the money, and once you pay them off, they hand you the title back. So a lot of times you could be trying to buy a mobile home that somebody else has a title to. All these are things that you can have solutions for if you know the process too. No more passing up on deals and opportunities if you know how to acquire a title or at least do a thorough due diligence. That's what we're going to be teaching on the virtual event, just like we're talking right here. I've heard enough excuses. I can't make it. They didn't even know it was virtual. You can make it because you can see it at the comfort of your home. So we're going to be doing it. That's a Wednesday, November 30th. It's about a 2 to 2.5 hour step-by-step. And the reason so long, we're going to cover how to identify vents, where to identify vents on a mobile home, which is huge, how to fill out bill of sales, how to start the process, whether T22, that specific number form that we use, it's a VIN identification form that the officer, yes, you will have to call the local PD, police department, to have an officer come out and verify the mobile home. They will make sure that it's not stolen, which is why you need a bill of sale. They'll walk you through the steps, fill out the paperwork, and then you start the bond title process. Many steps you can do, many ways we can find VIN numbers, but all in all is I want to teach you how to get titles. We got the 3 mobile homes. We did a title, bond title less than 2 weeks ago. We got the titles already. So these things are happening quicker and quicker. And again, when you're talking about locking up a mobile home or trying to sell a mobile home and you think, I don't have a title, it's going to take me months, that's enough for a buyer or seller to say, I'm not interested. Don't lose out on that because you don't have a title. Okay, and we'll teach you the steps, the process, and you will have a title within the 30-day mark, and that's what you want to do. Okay, so we got that coming up. Tuesday, don't forget, we have the Let's Do deals. That's where we have mobile homes off market where we pitch deals. Now, I talked about no more Zoom. That goes for Sunday and that goes for Tuesday. No more Zoom. Zoom is a distraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to go live on Instagram only and TikTok. That's where we're going to be. Now, if you have a deal, okay, because Sundays I know we can cover coaching on here. If I have to share the screen, I can do so. But on Tuesday, if any of you, because don't forget, you can come and pitch your deals on Tuesday free. There's no expense for that. And we share all of our recorded calls on our YouTube. So if you ever get on late, you can go catch the full recording on that. But if you have a deal, you wanted to be part of the call, well, then turn on Zoom. We'll have you share that because we do share a spreadsheet, all the above, so that she can pitch the deal accordingly. If you have a mobile home that you're trying to sell, bring it on there. Wednesday of this week. So we are traveling for Wednesday. We're traveling Wednesday to California. So we're going to be traveling. That's a 6-hour flight. We will not be doing the Wednesday coaching, which is for members only. And I don't know about the Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. That's the check-in every Saturday we do. We do podcasts on that. We bring guest speakers on there to come on as well. We do a lot of things on Saturdays, basically the catch up of the week, anything coming up. We may jump on that Saturday morning, but I will be posting on that throughout the week. So something to stay tuned as well. All right. All right. So I think that's all I have for this evening. So I do have a couple of coaching calls to jump on to. I hope this was productive. I know 30 minutes is not a whole lot a lot of whole time to cover, but stay tuned for a lot of the announcements. Definitely. See y'all all November 30th. Don't miss out on that event. Share it. You can go on our social media, GarciaMHE.com, and I hope to see you Tuesday evening. All right. Thank you all for